Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today we're having a look at a digital organizer, none other than the Rolodex RF-31128. This was kindly loaned to me by Graham Bentley, so a massive shout out to you for lending me this. Before we get started, a massive shout out to the super thanks from Rich's Random Retro Reviews and from Curti Unlisted on my last video, which was introducing Gen Z to Windows 95 on the Toshiba Libretto. This video has been very well received, and so I think another reaction video is in order, as long as Sophia and Erica agree. Right, let's get on with this. The original paper Rolodex, which we're all kind of familiar with from films and TV, was actually invented in 1956, hitting the market in 1958. It remained popular right up until the 1990s, during which time there was a huge boom in digital organizers, like these. Of course, for a company like Rolodex, where your aim is to store information and easily access it, a digital organizer is the next logical step. This isn't their first organizer. In fact, we have had a look at a weird and wonderful keychain organizer also branded under Rolodex in the past, and I'll pop a link to that video below. This particular device is a clamshell, which is good because it means you don't need a protective case when putting it in your pocket or bag. It's also very slim, as you can see, and will easily fit in said pocket. On the top we've just got the Rolodex electronics label. On this side we've got a receive infrared receiver. On this side we've got an infrared send and a reset button. Flipping it on its back, we can see this is the only date I could actually find for this. So it was in 1997 registered, and this is the 31128. Having done several Googles, it's been impossible for me to find the actual manual. Up at the top here, this is where the batteries go in, and unusually for a digital organizer of this era, it takes a couple of AAAs as opposed to a lithium coin cell. I'm going to pop a couple of batteries in. Let's flip it over and open it up. And the first thing that'll strike you when it comes to digital organizers, this is an enormous LCD for its size. Here we've got the branding again, and we can see this is 128K of flash memory. There's no backup battery required because this is flash, but when you do change the batteries, it resets the date to the 1st of January 1995. So I've just propped the display up a little so you can view it better. As you can see along the bottom, we've got these 9 different buttons. This panel kind of reminds me of the Scion 3. Under that, we've got a full QWERTY keyboard plus a separate number pad. Squeezing all that into this space does mean the buttons are a little small, but it does remain usable. As I already mentioned, it uses flash memory, so loss of data is very unlikely. The reset pin on the side, when you do reset it, it actually just resets the time and date. It doesn't delete any of your information. Pressing the off button doesn't turn it off. It actually shows the date and time first and then turns it off. Turning it on, that's the first thing you're going to see. It would seem that this device was also marketed as the MBO organizer, as I've seen in this listing on eBay, although this model only had 32K of flash instead of a whopping 128K. So let's take a look at some different options. We're going to start at this end with settings because this is the first place we're going to go look. So from here we can put the date. It's in American format, so we're month first, which is really weird. Then we can put the time in. Pressing enter will change it. And now we've set the time, so even though it resets when you change the batteries, it's not even a 30-second job to get it back to where it should be. Next up, under settings, we've got the keytone. So the keytone I find a little annoying, but it can be useful to give you a little bit of feedback when you press the buttons. Last up, we've got the display contrast. And now you can hear the keytone. So on here, we just use the forwards and backwards keys to increase or decrease the contrast. And I'm going to leave it there, that looks good. And then pressing any button will take you out of those settings and back to the main menu. Next up, we've got the calculator. Before we continue, I'm just going to turn that rather annoying keytone off. So the calculator has 10 digits. It has basic functions, but one of the cool features is that it's actually got a ticker tape, so you can see your equations as you put them in. As the ticker tape fills up, you can use these arrow keys to move back up and see what you've put in so far. Being able to scroll back through the calculation is of course very useful, as we all make the odd mistake. Next we've got calendar, but we're going to come back to that once we've got a few functions put in. So let's skip to the other side of the shortcuts and we're going to hit enter. And this is how we add information to our Rolodex. So we've got a list of options: card file, confidential files, to do and schedule, and the daily alarms. So we might as well start with a card file. This is a Rolodex after all. It is designed for storing names and numbers. All we're going to do is hit card file, and now we just follow the instructions. So as you can see, we've got a last name, first name. Once the name's in, pressing return will take you to the next line. Here you can put in a company name, and return will take you to the next line. If you don't have a telephone number or you just want to put a fax number, pressing return again will simply skip that option. This area is where the address would go, or you can add notes instead. When in the notes section, pressing return will simply take you to the next line. Once you're happy, all you need to do is press card file again. Our information is now stored, and if we want to view it, we can use the forward and reverse arrows. Once on it, you can use the view by line arrows to scroll down, or you can use the next and last arrows to jump by more than one line. I'm just going to add a couple of extra entries so I can show you how the search function works. So now we've got a couple of files in, I'll show you how the search works. All you need to do is start typing. So if you put G in, it'll jump to G, and we find Gandalf. If you put a B in, it'll find no matches. If we put a J in, because there are two people starting with James, we can continue to type until it reaches a single solution. This is quite a good way of searching. Instead of typing in the name, you can instead use the company, in which case it will jump to that instead. To edit any entries, all you need to do is hit the edit button just here, which is also the backspace, and the same rules apply. If there's something you don't want, just hit enter and it'll jump to the next list. Otherwise, you can go through and edit whatever you want. Once you've edited it, all you need to do is hit enter or go back to the card file. And now when we go back to the one we searched, we can see it's been edited. To delete a file, there is a designated delete key just here. So in fact, I had to manually delete the small amount of information on here because I don't have the manual. Sorry about that, Graham, but it didn't look important. And if any of you know how to actually perform a hard reset on here, I would very much appreciate that if you could pop a comment below. So let's have a look at the confidential file. So if I hit this, of course, there aren't any in there at the moment. I have set a password, which you have to do the first time you go into it, but at the moment there's nothing there. So we need to enter some files. With the confidential file, you can add information without putting the password in. And this is more like a memo pad, so we can simply write whatever we want. Like in the previous file, pressing enter actually creates a new line. It doesn't save it. Instead, either pressing the confidential file or another button will simply save it. As far as I can tell, there doesn't seem to be a limit to how much you can add here. I've added up to 20 lines and it still continued to accept more information. Heading back in to the confidential file, or as I would like to call it, notes. As you can see, there's our 2 notes and it gives you the first 2 lines of each. I don't know why it doesn't just do one. To scroll up and down through your notes, if you've got lots of them, you use the view by line. Or you can use the forwards and backwards, which will literally scroll through each and every one. Once you find the one you want, hitting return will allow you to view the memo. Once in, you can use the up-down arrows to scroll through that note and the left and right arrows to move to the next note forwards and backwards. As you can see, unlike most organizers, you're not limited to 36 characters. In fact, I don't know what the limit is. If you know what the limit is, please drop a comment below. Next up, we have our to-do list or schedule. There's nothing in there at the moment. As with the others, we simply hit enter and then to-do or schedule. So in here, we can put down the date, time, and then a note about what it is we're doing. As you can see, we can also add an anniversary by typing AN instead of the year. Let's start by putting in a to-do entry. To do that, we don't need a date, we don't need a time, and instead, we just put in a memo. Again, pressing return just adds extra lines. Pressing enter will allow us to enter another item, and pressing the to-do will exit and show us what's in the list. So we're just going to add another item, an appointment perhaps. And now if we go to schedule, you'll see these two things are scheduled. So we've got our to-do at the top, which has been labeled as a to-do because it's got no time and no date. Then we've got an actual scheduled appointment. As before, you can use the arrows to scroll up and down. And if you want to go into something and see what the note says, because it might be more than just one word, you simply hit enter. From here, like elsewhere, pressing this button will allow you then to edit it. You can change the date, the time, and of course, whatever it is you want to say. As you can see, you can add an alarm by pressing daily alarms, and it steals the settings and adds it to your daily alarm. And now, when we reach that time, the alarm will go off. I'm just going to add a couple more entries so I can show you the good and the bad about this particular system. If we go from an application and jump into our to-do list / scheduler, what it does, it shows us the to-do list first. Scrolling down, it then shows us dates, but it starts with the earliest date. So this is the 1st of September, that's the 13th, and that's the 22nd. So that all makes sense. The only issue is that this is the first item in the diary and it's in the past. So the best way to work out what's going on is to press your calendar button, and on the calendar you can see there's a little dot where we've got entries on the 1st, the 13th and the 22nd, so you know if something is going on. It doesn't give any kind of indication as to the time or what it might be, but it allows you then to use the arrows to jump to that event. As I say, if you do it manually and you've been using this for several months, you'd have to scroll through several months of entries in order to get to today. So it's important that you use the calendar to jump to the date in question. I guess when it comes to having a to-do list, it makes sense that your to-do list comes first and it starts with those, but even then it would be nice if they didn't take up so many lines and perhaps we could see 4 at once. These are minor things. If you've got an entry you want to delete, there is a delete button and all you do is press it, give a confirmation, and that file is now gone. So it wouldn't take long to clear your to-do list or your diary and bring everything up to date. Next on here, and finally, we have daily alarms. Pressing this will show you any alarms that are currently set. This is the one that we set with our calendar. And as with all the others, if we want to add a new one, what we need to do is go to enter, daily alarm, and then pop in a date, or if we want it every day, just a time. And that means we'll now have an alarm that goes off every day at 11 o'clock. When we jump to alarm, it shows us this, which is the calendar alarm. We actually have to scroll up to see our daily alarm. Again, just a minor quirk of the system, and certainly not anything untoward. As you can see, it's very easy to set alarms on here. The alarm itself is quite loud. So not only is it quite sharp, it's also pretty loud, certainly enough to wake you up. We'll just turn that off, I think. And while you can't set a memo with a daily alarm, if you've put it in the diary and added an alarm, pressing return will take you to that entry, and then you can see what's in the schedule. Like so. So combining the scheduler with the to-do app on here is probably my least favorite thing about this organizer. The problem is you see all your to-do lists and then you see your calendar entries. In addition, all the earliest calendar entries come first, which makes sense, of course, except that you'd like to jump to today and see what's going on. And to do that, you have to go first to the calendar and then to the scheduler via the calendar. This isn't a massive bind, and one of the things you can do to get rid of part of this issue at least is to simply use the confidential file and create a note for your to-do list. Or 2 notes, or 3, or however many to-do lists you like to use. Sadly, the infrared on here is only compatible with other Rolodex machines. I did try sending files to Palm and Pocket PC. Of course, Palm didn't have infrared in 1997, and Windows CE was yet to be released. So I shouldn't really be surprised about that. I also couldn't find any software to allow it to interface with a computer in order to back things up. So once it's on here, that's your only copy. There are no lowercase letter options on here, and there's also no exclamation mark, although these are just minor issues. I am nitpicking. There's no backlight, but then no organizer of this period would have a backlight, so I can't really fault them for that. Finally, my only other gripe is that they've used this single bar for all the arrows, and it makes it a bit tricky to hit the arrow key you want. In addition, because of its position, you often end up pressing back instead of space. Again, a minor hindrance. These are things you could absolutely live with. The card file on here is excellent. Being able to add that free notes at the bottom is really important, especially when dealing with lots of clients. For example, you might want to know when birthdays, anniversaries, children's names, pet names, those kind of things, and you can add them all to that file. The search functionality is excellent, being very fast at finding specific people by company or name. But what would you expect from a company that created the Rolodex? The confidential files are excellent, allowing you to store quite long notes, as opposed to the 36 character limit we see on most databanks from this period. The only problem with this is there's no search function, but I'll let them off as you're probably not keeping billions of notes on here anyway. It's easy to set alarms, and the alarm itself is loud enough to wake most people from a slumber. Overall, this is an excellent databank. It is well built, it feels sturdy in the hand and fits in the pocket nicely. Running off AAAs instead of those coin cells means at a pinch you can pick up some batteries from pretty much anywhere in the world. Although I suspect that the battery life on this is more like years than months. In addition, having flash memory instead of RAM means that loss of data is highly unlikely. Overall, if what you're looking for is an easy to use everyday organizer that can keep a reasonable amount of notes, I think this is an excellent option. Huge shout out to Graham Bentley for sending me this device for review. I've very much enjoyed using it, and as I say, it is one of the better digital databanks that are available. In the box when Graham sent me this, he also added a second device, which he didn't mention, so I only discovered it when I opened the packet. And here it is. This is the Matrix 2000 Travel Companion. Its aesthetics would fit right at home in the original RoboCop, and as you can see, it does a myriad of things, including a translator, a databank, and of course a calculator. So we'll have a review of that coming up. If you don't want to miss that, don't forget to hit that notification bell. Huge shout out to all the viewers, commenters, subscribers, and most of all to the supers and the members who directly support this channel. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, my name's Hugh. This is Handheld Computing. Thanks for watching.